and
the phones
cinematographer.
do.
You know what's
Phones are
crazy?
better than webcams.
So you're recording it, but I downloaded an app to let me use my phone as a webcam just to test it out, and even that, the quality is not as great.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Well, I got the new iPhone. It's got like the
All right, we're live.
all the different modes for the camera and stuff, like action and cinematographer and all that crap.
Oh yeah. Wait,
And
you have the 14, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, hold on. I'm just getting the link out. We're live. Just FYI.
Yo,
As a webcam.
With it.
what up, Gen Nation?
We got the train wreck in the house. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is going to be the focus today, but we want to briefly talk about The Last of Us before we ignore that, because that was another baller episode. I'm just getting a nice little thumbnail up for the YouTube video because the standard one is garbage.
What up, Facebook user? What up?
Let's see. Here we go. Bam. We got Facebook user in the comments already.
Yeah.
Already.
Actually, so in the description, I don't know if you guys saw this, but in the description, I left instructions on if you're watching us through Facebook on how to allow StreamYards permission to show your name. So if you feel like following those steps,
I think everyone has to do that individually.
Individually, I think
my God.
I think the users themselves have to go into StreamYard, Facebook.com
like a privacy
StreamYard
bullshit.
and allow and get permission. So that's basically a way to get everybody who watches us to also join the Facebook StreamYard Facebook. So, but anyway, all right, got the new thumbnail up. What's up, fellas?
It's the Captain, bitches.
What's up, fellas? It's the Captain, bitches. What's going on, man?
What up?
I know the Captain himself was supposed to join me for Ant-Man and opted to go watch wrestling instead, which I've
seen both.
It was a better use of your
time.
Of your 2 hours. Yeah, 100%.
Elimination Chamber was amazing. Check out the Oversell podcast this week about it.
Overspell podcast coming out this week. They'll be doing it just like we're doing a deep dive on Ant-Man. They'll be doing a deep dive on Elimination Chamber. Full recap. But now, before we jump into Elimination Chamber, let's just kind of go over The Last of Us. Episode 6, we had a new episode. This was for fans of the game, my opinion is fantastic episode, but also a little boring. For people who weren't fans of the game or just don't know what happens in the game, I imagine it's going to be a little bit of a higher kind of a reaction to it. But let's start with Zuplex, since you had not played the game up to this point.
Yeah.
What did you think about the show?
I mean, I really like this episode. I like the little bit of world building they did with the Wyoming camp, and Joel and Ellie have such a great dynamic together. These two actors working together. The ending, of course, of it really left you on a cliffhanger, and if you haven't played the game, you really don't know. I'm sure for you guys it's a little bit different because you guys kind of know what's going to happen with that situation. But basically, Joel gets stabbed in a fight with a bunch of raiders, and you don't know if he's going to be making it out. And Ellie's trapped in the middle of like a snowy forest with him, and
trying to survive, trying to take care of him.
Trying to survive.
This is Fred. You probably agree with me. This is a moment that I've been waiting for. I've been kind of wondering when they're going to bring it up. I almost feel like they brought it up quickly, almost a little too quickly.
What?
I just feel like Joel getting stabbed and Ellie now having to basically kind of keep him alive while also surviving. I just felt like I could have used probably another episode of them not meeting up with people and just surviving. A little more of like their actual trek through the country, essentially, instead of having what happened last episode and then all of a sudden it's 3 months later, now they meet up with Joel's brother.
I'm happy that they told us it was 3 months later instead of just being like we were talking about like the Game of Thrones thing where they just kind of like fast travel everywhere. Like now that like it's just been 3 months of them trekking through across the country.
The picture, I'm assuming you're the captain. The picture does look like Brokeback Mountain, but I promise you this is much better than Brokeback Mountain. I promise you. Promise you that. My thing is I will say the one negative. I'm still going to say the show's a 10 out of 10 because I won't say anything bad about the show. I won't give it a bad rating. But the one negative I will say though is that so it's almost like they're in a rush. And part of what makes the game so compelling is the little moments when you're during the gameplay where the characters are talking to each other and you kind of see them connecting and starting to get a little more comfortable. And I feel like in the show we got that a little bit. I think in episode 2 it is when we first saw the joke book, but then since then we haven't gotten that. It's just been they get here, they meet people, they have to deal with it. They get here, they meet people, they have to deal with it. Now in this episode is the same thing. 3 months later, they meet up with Tommy almost immediately, and we don't get enough of them just traveling and having to rely on each other as much as I want.
They did travel more in this episode than I feel like they did in other ones, though, because in other ones they're in a set place. Like the last 2 episodes was in Kansas City the whole time, basically,
which still makes no sense.
And and then the time before that was a whole episode of Bill in the past, so that made less sense. That should have been more of Joel and Ellie exploring and walking.
And it looks like the next episode is just going to be Ellie in the past.
It looks like, so there's a lot of people are familiar with the Left Behind DLC. It was basically the DLC told the story of Ellie before she met up with Joel while she was trying to survive and help Joel and whatever after he gets stabbed, so the next episode looks like it's literally telling that exact DLC. That whole episode looks like it's going to be DLC, and it's called Left Behind for a reason. So you'll get both. You'll get some of the time with her current times and then also in the past and what happened with her. Without spoiling anything.
I'm running into a problem with this show.
Which is?
Just hear me out on this, because so they changed the whole like spores to the bite and this, that, and the other thing, which we all kind of agreed like made more sense for a show. But what I didn't realize in this episode while watching it, when you get to the campfire scene of Joel and Ellie talking, is that made me start thinking about like when they're talking about like the future and like what's next, and then a lot of this episode was like even with Tommy talking about the future and what's next and how she's going to save everybody and the vaccine. Isn't that vaccine kind of useless at this point? Because my thing is with the amount that the fungus has grown, and that you have these huge hordes of infected, right? The vaccines are going to prevent more infected, right?
Right.
So they're not biting to infect people anymore. They're just ripping people to shreds. We've seen them basically this whole time, So you're going to see like that vaccine isn't as important as it was for when it was spores, is my point.
I mean, that's probably, I don't know if that's untrue. All I can say is I don't have a real argument against what you're saying. But I guess the idea is if they are vaccinated and don't have to worry about turning into an infected, they can maybe fight back more and start to cleanse.
Yeah, like you still have to clear the entire planet of this fungus.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's my problem with it, is that like you still have to clear the entire planet of the fungus. So I mean, they're not, and it doesn't seem like the fungus is really out there to infect anybody else. They're more on like eradication mode at this point, right? Because like they just kind of like work to. It's not like they're out there like sneakily like trying to bite people and then just like run away and get more infected.
There's different levels of it. So like the runners are trying to infect. They're not trying to just maim and kill. But the bloater and the stalker is really more of like, I'm just going to rip you into pieces, and I don't.
The clicker is going to just rip you apart. Yeah, it goes back to it goes back to like what Tess said in the second episode. She's like, "Yeah, you're immune, but you're not immune to getting ripped to shreds."
Right. Yeah. Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't know, for some reason, like it really clicked with me in this episode with all of them talking about like the future. I guess I started thinking about like, yeah, what if Ellie does like wind up? They create a vaccine out of her. How's that even going to work? Because like, if it was spores, it makes sense because then you don't have to worry about breathing in infected spores, because you won't get infected. But since it's only the bite, like now I'm kind of like pulling back on the whole change of how they infect.
It's a solid
now it
question.
Makes less sense to me because of the vaccine makes less sense to me, I should say.
Any real answer, I think that Fred or I give you almost spoils how it ends, how the first season is going to end, I should say. So I don't know if we can really respond in an intuitive way.
Fantastic. Great talk, guys.
No,
You know what I'm saying, though,
you
Fred?
he brings up a great point, but we can't really expand on it too much.
Right.
But
I don't want to spoil it.
The spore change does pose the problem of the effectiveness of the vaccine. So I do agree with that. But I don't know, because like I feel like when the Horde was coming into the museum with Tess, they kind of ignored her because they already felt she was bitten. So maybe it's more of a thing where like besides the one that makes out with her for some reason, but it might be a thing where it's like once they get the immunity, they no longer want to go after them. It's kind of like, oh, they already have it type of thing, and they kind of move on. I don't know.
Yeah, I really don't know. It's definitely a good point to make. I still think the show's a 10 out of 10. I don't care what anyone says. I'm a Last of Us fanboy.
No, like, listen, I love the episode. This isn't like a knock against the show at all. It was just something that, like, for whatever reason, the way they were speaking in the show, like a lot of it had to do, like I said, a lot of it had to do with like the future, what the future holds for everybody, and like how to like move on with this thing. And I started thinking about like the vaccine, and just all of a sudden it wasn't lining up for me, you know.
I got you. I do have a question for you, Fred. So an added wrinkle to the show that was not in the game is Joel's age and how it's affecting him. How he can hear less. He's not as strong. He's not as quick. Do you think that makes him a better character or a worse character than he was in the games?
It's kind of annoying to me, like that he's older and dealing with more health problems or whatever. Because we didn't have to deal with that in the game, and I guess it is for TV effect. But I don't know, man. I'd rather him be a little bit younger, maybe in his 40s rather than 50s, and being able to like keep up and handle his business without having to deal with all this. I mean, getting stabbed is one thing, but having like heart problems or whatever is that I don't know. It just feels it to me, and shoot me if you want. A lot of times, like there's things that they do in shows or movies that ends up being a crutch. Like, let's say an actress is pregnant on a show. I feel like it's always about the pregnancy, and it kind of just the story all revolves around that rather than like what's going on outside of that. Mm-hmm. And I feel like now we're just going to keep focusing on Joel's health rather than maybe what's going on in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
So it might end up just being a crutch, but I don't know.
So it's fun. So I tend to agree. I didn't agree. I actually liked the fact that they aged him up, and that, he made comments like you can't crouch walk for 3 hours. And, after he beat that guy in the first episode, his hand was all bloody and he thinks he fractured a bone. Little details like that were cool. But I
feel like that would be a thing no matter what age you are. If you're beating the crap out of
it doesn't matter about the
break
age.
Your knuckles.
Right. But my point is, it didn't bother me. None of the little things they added didn't bother me until even like the hearing thing didn't really bother me much until this episode when he's having the panic attacks. And I'm kind of like, all right. Then I kind of agree with you. It's like, all right, now all of a sudden we're more concerned about the panic attacks than whether he's going to protect Ellie. You know what I mean? And it's like the whole point of this is has another daughter essentially that he's starting to grow connected to, and the focus should be on that, not on how scared he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that I don't know if I love that aspect of it. And then then my only other complaint, like I said, is that I feel like we got to the stab moment just almost like, I know there's only 3 episodes left, but I feel like we should have had a 10 episode season and kind of one full episode of them just traveling together instead of, even every time we have seen them travel, they travel a little bit in the beginning of the episode, then they get to a destination and they got to deal with shit. Why can't we have one episode of them traveling, beginning to end, just them connecting? Doesn't have to be a big action heavy episode. There's plenty of areas in the game, like going through the dam, which they didn't do. They kind of, gave us a little Easter egg, but they didn't have to go through it in this game, in this show. Going through a sewer at one point or underwater tunnels, like, they've kind of briefly touched on those things, but they haven't shown us that. And I would have liked one episode where they show us that. At this point, there's no time for that. They have enough story for the next 3 episodes where we're not gonna get those moments. But that's just nitpicking.
Going back to the age thing, I think it was a mistake for them to do a 20-year gap in the beginning. They just kept it. They could have done, like, I know they were trying to follow, like, the game went from
the game was 20 years, but doesn't mean you have to
2013.
do that in the movie.
No, the game was 10. The game was 10 years.
I'm pretty sure the game was 20.
They went from 2003 to 2013.
Was it? I guess it was. Yeah, it was
pretty sure.
Then. So
yeah,
I think you're right. Yeah, I think it was only 10 years.
And this one, they decided to go from 2003 to 2023.
Catch up.
They could have just started at 2013 and went to 2023.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If that was the route that they wanted to take, I understood why they did it, but like, I don't know. I felt like the age of Joel kind of starts taking away from like the mystique of Joel a little bit. You know, because you're like, all right, he's up there. Like, how is he doing all these things? Like, he's 56,
but he's not doing anything. Like, I guess that's the as a fan of the game, right? You do so much for Joel. You play the whole first game as Joel.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's kind of like, you know, he's not doing the things that we've seen him do. Like, I guess my thing is, like, I don't know, him getting beat essentially by that young kid in episode 4. You know, it was fine, but the Joel that I'm used to, fuck that kid up, no problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, the headshots all over the place. I guess we saw him with the headshots in episode 5, but I don't know. We haven't really seen him be.
But even that, like, they made a
Yeah.
point. If you go back to like episode 5, like, they really made a point to that he was like missing his first like 5 shots until he like honed it in, and it's like, oh, he hasn't used the gun in forever. They try to make it like that. On it. Like, and then all of a sudden, like, he couldn't miss after that. You know, like, it takes him time now to like, he needs like a warm up for every action that he's doing.
Yeah,
and I don't know if that's really, you know, pushing the story in the right direction.
Like Chris said in part 1, you're basically a badass the whole time from start to finish. He has zero emotion unless it involves Ellie. He has zero emotion.
I think that's the one thing they changed that I'm starting to miss.
Yeah, and like, he doesn't care who you are, where you're from, why you're in this particular spot. He's taking you out if you pose any threat or if you get in his way in any chance. Like, he's just taking you out. And that killer instinct is missing in this version of Joel. It's kind of more of a bonding
so they
experience.
softened him for the show.
Well, I feel my guess is they softened him because, without really spoiling anything, there are moments that should be coming up, especially with the way they followed the game so closely. There are a couple of moments that are going to be coming up where that kind of vicious, badass, like, you know, like, take no prisoners Joel is going to appear. And I'm thinking the idea is soften him up so that when that does come, it almost hits more. But
maybe,
like, I think one thing the show needed that I think I'm missing, and I think I made a joke about this, I think, when episode 1 came out, that as long as somebody threw a brick to distract a clicker or to distract the infected, I'd be happy. They haven't done that. Like, a big part of the game is them sneaking through an area. Maybe like they are forced to go through a dark building or something. And there are runners and clickers, but you have to, instead of fighting them, you avoid them. That's the kind of the whole point. Yeah. They haven't done that yet. And I feel like to keep the threat of those things alive, we should have, after episode 2, when we first saw the clickers, we should have seen another moment where Joel maybe navigates through 3 or 4 of them by throwing things like and distracting
a heavy clicker building where they're just everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to
I agree.
And they don't get caught. Keep the intensity the whole time. And, you know, maybe they don't get caught at all. He successfully shows how good he can survive because he's throwing things and figuring out how to, you know, on the fly, how to get past them. But
I agree. The show is bullshit. I haven't seen one person make a shiv yet.
Yeah, right. They haven't made it. But now I got, again, though, we always call out the Easter eggs, right, for the game. He's using duct tape to fix his shoes.
Yeah.
You don't fix your shoes in the game, but duct tape is your main thing to just take care of yourself. There's the dam reveal, which was kind of cool. The whole dialogue in a couple of scenes was straight out of the game. The whole town that Tommy's in is literally the town from Last of Us Part 2. So they clearly were thinking ahead when they built that set.
It looked like identical. It looked identical.
Yeah,
it was so good.
Like they took the town out of the game and made it in real life for sure.
That's cool. I mean, like, listen, awesome, we've talked incessantly about how close this is to the games, and this is like the first video game adaptation that we've gotten that's been like this close to the actual games and stuff. And I mean, it's been a hit so far. I mean, even with the problems that I'm seeing, it's still they're minor compared to the overall. Like,
it's nitpicking.
We're allowed to nitpick, right? When it's so good,
I mean, like this episode, like I said, with what I saw with the vaccine thing, that's a little bit more than nitpick. That's a little bit more than nitpicking for me, but because that could be a major story problem later on. But that being said, like I still love this episode. Like I love the dynamic between Joel and Ellie. I love that they went to a new area. We got to see all this like world building a little bit. You know, the show's been a hit. My question for you is, Chris, specifically, is that if they fuck this up in the end, are you going to call them out on it? Or are you going to be the same Last of Us fanboy that you've been this entire time?
So it depends on what you mean exactly. It depends on what you mean exactly. Like when you say if they fuck it up in the end, are you talking about like the last 2-3 episodes? Like my thing is the show's been so good, right? So let's say I can't give any specifics because I don't want to ruin it, but let's say it's phenomenal. The very end of the show, which is a huge part of in the game story. If they don't do that the right way, will it ruin the whole show? Probably not. I mean, it's just such a phenomenal show. I can't say that. Gotcha. But if starting next week, the next 3 episodes are just like boring and like I'm just kind of like, then the quality of the entire show has to take a dive. Maybe I'll go from 10 out of 10 to like a 9 out of 10. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Fucking guy.
Listen, my voice. I have a major voice in the world of game adaptation, so I want to make sure they know that I'm approving of the show.
So, speaking of ripped right from the pages, I guess the scene in the house with Joel and Ellie when they're in a town, that was verbatim, word for word, from the game and the television show.
Like you can't get much closer.
It was perfect.
And that was a very powerful scene too. Like that's one of my most favorite scenes from this episode is that scene. You know,
the only thing they changed really is the line delivery. You know, the words were all the same, the dynamic was the same. Like it was just how the lines were read, which is that's going to happen because it's different actors playing the characters.
No, I got you.
But I mean,
Fred, you sold on Bella Ramsey yet?
I was just going to ask that too. Yeah,
for sure.
Huh.
I remember back in episode 1, you were like, I don't know if I see Ellie in her, but I think by episode 3, you or episode 2 maybe you gave her credit. Sure. She's definitely sold on board. Well, I'm looking forward to her playing her in the next season too.
They did change though the fact that Tommy has a kid on the way. And
they added that, but in the second one, doesn't he have a kid? In the second game, I mean,
he might. I'm
pretty sure he does. Yeah.
This is a prime example of what I was talking about being a crutch. Like now he has a kid on the way, and now we're going to miss Tommy and Joel and Ellie out there together. And now you're just going to get Joel and Ellie, where the three
that's not
of them
necessarily true though.
Well, he was going. He was gonna.
Yeah, that's true.
He was going to lead Ellie, and then Joel was like, "No, she can choose. If she wants me to do it, I'll do it." And then she chose Joel. Right. So, to me, it's telling me like, all right, so Tommy's gonna stay back, and now we're not gonna get that awesome trio messing shit up on their journey to the west. So. I don't know.
I mean,
gotcha.
It's
well, I mean, but Ellie could go back. Ellie could go back to the Wyoming camp with Joel. She can find a way to get him back there. I don't know how anything else goes. I'm just spitballing for the show's sake.
Elaborate without spoiling anything, so I don't want to. I feel like me even saying that already kind of spoils something. So
I mean, it kind of does, but I mean, I'm just spitballing for the sake of the show and everything like that. Like. We know that the next episode we're spending basically in Ellie's backstory.
Right.
So right there, we know that one episode, there's not going to be much moving forward in the current timeline. I guess you could
And then
say.
we have what, 2 episodes left after
and
that?
then 2
Yeah.
episodes
So-
left after that.
And
Yeah,
I feel like those 2 episodes have to be like
Or-
part 1, part 2 of the finale. Like,
Agreed.
they
I
need
was
to
gonna
be
say the same
maybe-
thing.
Is
all
Tommy
the
in the
end.
finale in the game?
Do you want us to tell you, or you want to just
Yeah, tell
learn
me.
it for yourself?
Is Tommy just in the game?
Yes
Is Tommy
and
in the
no.
finale?
Yes
Yeah.
and no.
All right, so maybe Tommy.
Maybe he is. Maybe he is. Maybe he's not.
So let me throw this
I'm not
at you. Maybe they're gone for a little too long, and Tommy realizes something's wrong and goes out looking for them, and finds
what?
Joel
Maybe.
and Ellie.
It's now on
Maybe.
the internet, and we'll have to revisit this after we finish the show.
Listen, I hope so, because he's too good of an actor to just leave sidelined. And like what we got from him in episode 1, and then the little bit we got from him in this past episode, it's like he should be utilized more, because he
Right.
was utilized more in the game. And if
Right.
you're trying to stick
Yeah.
to the game script, why are you benching this character because of now a pregnancy?
Right.
I don't think it's benched because of the pregnancy, though.
That's
I think
that's
it's more
what they
set up for
said.
season 2.
Well, no,
He's
that's what
like,
they're saying.
he's-
But like, I think it's more the creators on the creator side. I think they're benching him to really develop the relationship between Joel and Ellie.
No, I get that, but I don't know, man. Maybe if we had another
The
episode
excuse might be the
2
pregnancy, but I'm saying like from a creative side that like they're really trying to show you the dynamic
Yeah.
between Joel and Ellie, and that Joel's trying to replace what he lost, and all that's why the Sarah
Right.
conversation happens before, and that's what kind of kicks Joel in the ass to be like, fuck, I got to go with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll
Yeah,
see.
I
I feel like
From a
I mean,
storytelling standpoint, it makes sense to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, you guys, this is where we're going to run into like differences in opinion, because you guys played the game this far and I didn't. So from a pure storytelling standpoint of a show, it makes sense that Joel would be going with Ellie,
right.
like by
Yeah, I don't
himself.
disagree. I don't disagree. The thing is, I think as fans of the game, we just wanted to see
like
certain moments, and
that's the thing. It
Joel
takes
and
away
Tommy
from
working
what you were
together.
expecting.
Yeah, Joel and Tommy working together is some of the best moments of the game for me.
Right.
And it's just, and the fact that we have such a great actor playing Tommy, it's like
Right.
it just seems like such a waste to just have him
But
sit
think
in
of it this way,
Wyoming.
though. Think of it this way: in season 2, we're going to get more of Tommy. You know what I mean?
Who's
And
this?
I believe we're going to get more of Tommy and Joel, especially in the early in the season.
Yeah.
Again, without spoiling what happens in episode 2 or season 2. Let's see. We got a comment here. Could you see a situation where the show is so good, season 2 covers part 2 of the game, and they greenlight a season 3 before part 3 of the game comes out? Well,
Yes.
they've already
No.
basically said that by the end of season 1,
I'm gonna say
the
no.
entire game 1 is going to be covered. So game 2 will at least be seasons 2 and 3.
Yeah.
But I could see maybe season 2 being good enough that they break that into 3 parts, because that is a long game and there's a lot of
Yeah.
story in that game. So I could see them having one season focused on one particular character, season 5 almost focused on another character, and then
So neither of you
season 4,
think
then
that there's
season
a
5
world
coming
where we get a season of the show before the game comes out?
No.
back. No.
You guys are out of your minds.
I'm calling it now.
I mean,
only because
The
creators,
guy said it himself.
Yeah.
I mean,
When is the game coming out, though? Do we even have like a timeline of
No.
when this third game is coming
All
out?
right.
actually, Naughty Dog doesn't even want to make a 3rd game.
So the guy Neil, who
You don't
creates the
think
show,
if they have a bona fide hit on their hands, they're gonna keep making seasons of this?
Let me ask you this question: does Vince Gilligan make shows just because he's told to, or that he
This
knows-
guy's not Vince Gilligan.
Well, after this show, he is.
Vince Gilligan is, and all right, we're talking about HBO. They gave us
Right.
8 seasons of Game of Thrones, right? Based
the
off
books
of
were already
basically
written
like
now.
yeah, no, they weren't. That's the thing, is what Chris is like the last like 6
just episode season 7 and 8 were not written. Season 6
Were not
had
written.
some stuff that wasn't, and season
Yeah.
6 had some stuff that was. But season 7 and 8 was completely. It was written down in George R. R. Martin's head, but the books weren't out,
Allegedly.
so he had to give him like.
Yeah, we'll
allegedly.
never know
No,
if
No,
that's true or not.
No, 100. I believe he's got an outline somewhere. I believe he has
Yeah.
a big cork board with string tying everything together, and that's basically that he showed the
Yeah.
Benioff and Weiss. Look, this is basically book 7 and 8, and they said, okay, we'll make a couple seasons out of that then, and then they screwed it up.
My thing is, if it's a bona fide hit, HBO is going to continue making seasons of it.
I'm with you, Scythe. I will put money that they're not going to make Last of Us before the games are out. I do believe, though, that they will tap into other Sony properties because of how good The Last of Us.
All right, my thing is like, and you just said it yourself, like Naughty Dog, they're not necessarily even on board for making a third game. So you think we get 4 seasons of this show? It's a bona fide hit. Everybody loves it. It's winning Emmys all over the place, and HBO's like, let's write a 5th season.
Yeah,
they're not like, let's write a 5th season.
Band of Brothers had 2 seasons and won Emmys, and
Band of Brothers was a mini series.
It's not up. It's not going to
stop bringing up. Like, it is up to HBO. They own the rights. They own the rights.
No, they own the.
They don't own the
creative. Not distribution. The it's like not streaming rights, whatever it is, to put it on TV, but they don't own the rights.
They don't own the IP. That is strictly Sony. That's a Sony property.
Okay, and, again, Sony. You don't think Sony, with a bona fide hit on their hands,
Sony owns the game, bro? So if Sony wants a part 3, they're gonna obviously try to push for a part 3 game. But if Neil, the person who writes it, is saying, I don't think there's a story there, so I don't think I'm going to create a part 3.
Right. Then they're going to say, Neil, you're fired. Get us somebody that can write a part 3.
And then like maybe a game. You will not have the same success if it's.
I didn't say it was going to have the same success. I'm talking about, will they make another? Like, I'm not saying that the next seasons that they make will be good or not. I'm just saying that they're going to make them.
Yeah. I'm saying it's not going to make. It's not going to happen.
I think this is a 3-season, maybe 4 if they really stretch part 2 out. It's going to be a 3-season run unless Neil says, I got part 3 game in the pipeline. Don't worry about it.
I think if Neil's like, hey, guys, I'm done. We're not going to make this show anymore. And Sony and HBO are like, dude, fuck you. Get out of here. Let's bring in Vince Gilligan to make the fucking 5th season.
I would be down for that, man. Like, I would be down for that.
We're talking. I want to
see some blue meth in the last. We're
talking about the entertainment business, in a business right now where they're squeezing every last drop. I know this is not what you guys want, and like that's why you guys are saying this.
No,
look at reality.
I think it's not going to happen.
In reality, I don't think it's even a possibility.
I feel like Neil Druckmann and
you don't think it's a possibility?
I'm telling you, Neil Druckmann and I can't think of
the
guy's name. The guy who's helping with the show. Paper. The two of them have been so adamant that they will not make a season of the show.
Yes, that doesn't mean that Sony and HBO won't make one without them.
But I don't think they would say that unless they already knew that they had the backing of Sony. I don't know about HBO. I mean, HBO's HBO, but I'm telling you, I don't think so. But anyway, I digress, all right? Because that's just that conversation is not going to get us anywhere. Now, let's talk about the big dog. Because unless you guys have anything else to say about Last of Us, let's talk about the big dogs. And by big dog, I mean the little person of the MCU and the big threat of the next phase. Oops, wrong button. Next phase of the MCU. Let's pull this picture.
The winner of a possible Razzie in the future.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. So let's start off with our ratings for the movie.
Hold on, before we start, did Eternals get nominated for Razzies?
No.
The Turtles?
The Eternals?
Oh, the Eternals? Yeah. No, I don't think so. That movie got some praise for when it came out. I mean, Marvel fans were in the
but it had terrible reviews
from the critics. I
mean, but again, this goes back to what we were talking about, is that I'd never trust critics because this movie got terrible reviews, and I have no idea what they were talking about.
Yeah,
I get that. That's why I'm asking if Eternals had it, because they have the same rating. Basically.
So, Scythe, I started with Zuplex before. I'm going to come to you first. If you saw Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, 1 out of 10, what do you rank the movie? What do you rate the movie?
In my initial review, I think I ranked it a 7.2, but I feel like I was being a little more generous on it. There was a lot of flaws to this movie, and I'm sure we're going to get into it more as we go through everything, but a lot of CGI didn't hold up for me. I thought MODOK looked ridiculous. He was so bad. And he was much better with the armor face on than off. He just looked ridiculous. I didn't really like his character, to be honest. Like I appreciated that it was still Darren, but I didn't like his personality in it. I thought it should have been done differently, and how they closed him out, I thought was complete trash.
We'll get into that. Just before we jump to Zuplex, so walking out of the theater, I probably would have given the movie like a 7.5 out of 10. But like you, I feel like I was being generous, and it was more of like the movie didn't suck, and I enjoyed it walking out of it, so I was kind of riding a high. But the more I thought about it, the more I kind of talked to myself about it. Essentially, I think I would probably drop that rating to like maybe like a 6.5 to 6.8, like somewhere like maybe like high sixes is really a realistic number for me.
That's kind of where I was
10.
sitting.
But Zuplex, what about you? What would you rank? What would you rate the movie?
So full disclosure, I saw this morning.
Okay.
So I'm kind of at the same point of you guys of that. I'm at like a 7.5 because it's still kind of fresh in my head. I'm sure like the more I, pick it apart and everything like that, with the glaring plot holes aside that exist in this movie, because
so that's what we got to get into. We need to have a structured deep dive of this, because there's a lot. There's like each aspect.
I agree with
like, things I didn't like.
I agree with Fred on the MODOK thing. Like he just looked ridiculous.
Let's start.
And now like MODOK looks ridiculous in the comics, so it makes sense. But the CGI on his face was so bad. It was terrible. So bad. Like I just and then the whole like change. Like I get it that you wanted to make it Darren Cross, and it's like a cool little Easter egg thing, and it makes a lot of sense for this story. But MODOK being MODOK in the comics, like being the leader of Mojo World, and being this killing machine and everything like that. Like, you got glimpses of it in this movie, but like the ending really, really bothered me.
So bad. Let's focus real quick on his look. So I had this conversation with somebody at work. I agree. It looked pretty ridiculous, right? However, how much better could it have looked in live action?
That's a fair point.
It's a giant face or a giant head with a tiny arms and legs. Like I
said, MODOK's a ridiculous character in the comics. So
exactly. So I feel like using that as your kind of foundation of like of the expectation or whatever, they nailed it. I mean, they knocked it out of the park for me. I agree it looks better with the mask down, and I think it's more comic accurate almost with the mask down. But to have MODOK in live action, I mean, this goes in there with one of those characters where it's like back when Iron Man came out, MODOK wasn't even on a list of anything of a character I thought would be live action for us, and here we have it. And I'll be honest, man, he made me laugh. I thought he was one of the standout performances of the entire movie. I did not expect to enjoy his character as much as I did. Having said that, to your point, both your points, he's supposed to be a machine, whatever the MODOK stands for. The whole idea is he kills. That's what he does. Mm-hmm. He kills things. He's very good at it, and he enjoys it.
Designed
and that's what he
does. Only for killing.
Designed only for killing. Did he kill a single thing in his entire movie?
A couple.
I mean, we saw him blow up maybe the living building. He blew up a couple of those, but really, he didn't kill anyone that mattered. And not that he had to kill a major player, but some of the side characters, that the one who was leading the rebellion, he could have killed her. You know what I mean? She's no one that important to the MCU overall, and it would have shown how intense he was. But just like I said, to me, it was like I wasn't disappointed in his look because I did not expect anything better than that. You know what I mean? The animated Hulu show was almost just as good as that, which is crazy.
But I feel like if they covered his face more and all you saw was this, right? I think it would be better. But the fact that we got to see the whole head. It just didn't.
If it was closer to like an Iron Man helmet, where it's kind of like, encased, and the mask just kind of comes up, like I think it would have been a better look. But like I don't know, the ending for me for the MODOK is really where they dropped.
One shot. Hold on, one shot, real quick. Zuplex did not buy a laptop yet. I just needed to make sure I acknowledge that. Go ahead.
Funny guy. Yeah, so like I mean that's really where they dropped the ball with MODOK in my eyes,
the
because
MODOK ending was terrible.
Listen, I could deal with them. We've talked about this in the past with like Taskmaster and stuff like that. Like I'm okay with them changing like big details about certain characters and stuff like that, as long as they keep the core of what the character is supposed to be the way it's. I don't care if you make the character white, black, male, female, like change the backstory, name, or whatever, as long as the core of that character stays the same to what that character is supposed to be.
Right.
And I feel like they just deviated way too far from this in my that being said, with everything before, because like I just want to get this out there before, is that
go for it.
This was my favorite Ant-Man movie so far.
Easily.
Like I thought this was better than both previous Ant-Man movies. And like this movie actually felt like there were stakes to it, which we haven't gotten from an Ant-Man movie yet. It was a smaller story that they were telling, which I thought was going to happen anyway. But I mean, I think that's
a negative to the movie, though.
How so?
Why? Why is it always a negative? Like, why does every movie have to be?
Because you're dealing with like Kang the Conqueror, so it shouldn't be a small story. I don't know. I just feel like we should have gotten a lot more. I feel like the stakes should have been realized and pushed further with Kang the Conqueror, and I just. He was just a normal bad guy. He just seemed like a normal bad guy, and it was nothing.
But this isn't like the scariest Kang. Like Kang the Conqueror is not the scariest Kang in the books.
Well, so let's stick to that then a little bit. Hold on, let me pull up a picture of Kang so everyone sees it. So now at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie, this is your last warning. At the end of the movie, Scott is able to essentially, he's able to essentially defeat Kang and kill him. And I say that in quotes for a reason. And essentially suck him into his own time engine or I don't know what to multiversal engine. Do you think this version of Kang is dead? Or do you think he just basically was kind of sent to a quantum realm for the quantum realm and will be back in the future? I mean, it says Kang will return. So, who knows that?
Well, because all the variants are going to return.
But that's my point. So do you think this Kang is the guy that I think he makes a comeback and is like the main bad guy? Or do you think we've now been introduced to the Council of Kangs and that as a group, that's what we're going to be dealing with?
I think that there's going to be another version of Kang the Conqueror.
Okay, so it'll be like a variant who's also Kang.
Like a variant that's very close to this one. I think this one specific one is dead.
This was like Kang the Attempter.
Yeah, like whatever they end up calling him. Whatever they end up calling him. But at the end of the day, like there's millions of variants of Kang out there. So, and they showed us that. Like they showed us at the end there that like this is going to get very, very
Rick and Morty. Do you guys watch Rick and Morty, right? I mean, did you guys not feel like we were just watching a big episode of Rick and Morty?
100%. I thought it was the Council of Ricks. Let's fucking go.
100%. That goopy creature was 100% like a Mr. Meeseeks. Like there was so many ideas from the Rick and Morty show that came from that were here. I didn't hate that creature, but it was an unnecessary creature.
He was there for comedic effect. You know what I mean?
But my one complaint about this movie versus the other Ant-Man movies, the Ant-Man movies 1 and 2 were 100% comedies with some action, right? But they were focused on the comedy side of it, beginning to end. On this movie, I felt like it didn't really know where it wanted to live. It started off more funny, and then all of a sudden it got serious. Then it gets a little funny again. Then it ends. It's supposed to be super intense, and then out of nowhere, it's just funny again. I was like, stick to one style. You know, what I mean, that was one thing that kind of annoyed me.
I mean, I think a lot of the humor landed for me.
It didn't. Yeah, for me, a lot of the humor didn't.
So what's funny? Just kind of jumping ship to the visuals a little bit. Scythe, you said that the CGI you didn't think landed for you at all. Besides MODOK, and like I said before, to me, I kind of felt like how much better can he look? So, I agree it wasn't the greatest effect, but I didn't mind it so much. But the rest of the movie I thought looked fantastic.
Yeah,
I really had no problem with the CGI.
Besides MODOK, the entire movie looked fantastic.
Yeah.
Quantum Realm looked good. Some of the creatures I thought were but
I don't know if I can get an image of
for the most part, the Quantum Realm itself and a lot of the characters did look fantastic.
So your one gripe about the CGI is MODOK.
MODOK and like a couple of the creatures that were just randomly there.
I felt like, honestly, to me, I felt like this movie is really what I was hoping Doctor Strange 2 would have been visually. Because I feel like Doctor Strange 2, they had that one scene where they go through a bunch of universes and then they settle on one that just looks like Earth. So it's like, okay, that's not, that wasn't anything special. Here we got basically the visuals that I was expecting from Doctor Strange 2. You know what I mean? With the way the background was, with all the different environments they were in, with all the creatures. I mean, this was basically a Star Wars movie. They had their own cantina scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where they were just missing the cantina music.
Exactly.
I will say the look of Kang, like his powers and like his suit, and like I really was just a fan of Kang in this movie. I thought he was great.
Jonathan Majors killed it in this.
Jonathan
movie.
Majors obliterated the role, and in a couple of short post-credit scenes, he showed us he's just as good as James McAvoy at playing different characters, because each one of those feels like a different person when it's all the same guy doing it.
So like that brings me back to that brings me back to my original point, was that like Kang the Conqueror is not the most powerful Kang, and we saw 3 of the most powerful Kangs in that end scene. Because Immortus was there, the Scarlet Centurion was there, and
Rama Tut, I think, right?
Rama Tut. They were all there. So with them leading the Council of Kangs, this is gonna get like wild. Really, really wild. It should.
My biggest concern, sticking with Kang and just the kind of the through line to Kang Dynasty, because Fat Feige has said over and over again that this movie is a direct line to Kang Dynasty. Do we see Kang pop up, or where else do we see versions of Kang pop up before we get there? Because we can't go from this and then we don't see him again until Kang Dynasty. He's got to pop up again, otherwise no one's going to give a shit.
Well, I was thinking about that today.
Well, besides Loki, though, forget Loki. Stick with the movies for a second. Like, there's a handful of movies coming out between now and Kang Dynasty. Yeah. He has to pop up, and where do you think he pops up?
I was thinking about this today, and with the slate of movies that they have coming out before Kang Dynasty, I don't see a glaring obvious choice.
That's my
and that's the problem,
right? He can't just be in Loki. And then all of a sudden now he's Kang Dynasty, and that's the big Avengers movie. Like, there's no way they hit
Loki season 2 is definitely dealing all with Kang.
Right. That's one show, 6 episodes, I think. Maybe a little more. I don't even know. But my thing is, like, I agree with you. Thunderbolts, there's no real space for Kang there, right?
Secret Invasion, I don't see it.
Deadpool
Armor Wars,
3,
I don't see it.
If Deadpool 3 has Kang, that's a little shitty. Everyone really wants to worry about Deadpool and Wolverine. Nobody really cares who the bad guy is for that movie. So
I think, personally, I think what's going to end up happening is you're going to get a bunch of after credit scene that involve Kang,
which is fine.
Is that enough?
Fine for me.
I mean, it was fine for Thanos.
It was fine for Thanos.
Right, it was fine for Thanos. But if you just keep doing the same shit with Thanos, it's not going to ever feel as intense, Well,
we've already seen like one version of Kang that was a complete like maniac bad guy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like now, if you just give us sprinklings of like Rama Tut at the end of this, and then the Scarlet Centurion at the end of that, and like Immortus at the end of this, then you're like, oh shit! Like
more. I mean,
I agree with you.
Are you going to see Tut?
Wait, no, I know we got it. I don't even know this person's name on Twitch, but Creed 3. That's next time we see Kang.
Yeah, that's definitely next time we see Kang.
That makes a lot of sense. Maybe that's enough.
He was beating the shit out of Ant-Man, and it like his like sleeves were off.
Now he's gonna fight Killmonger. He's gonna bring Killmonger back.
He was boxing the shit out of Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Yo.
I was like, oh.
So one thing I will say
it
is
was like Thanos fighting Hulk.
Well, it's funny to me that I was thinking going into the movie, like, so Ant-Man's the guy who's going to introduce us to the next big bad that's supposed to be worse than Thanos. And I'm thinking, of all people, why Ant-Man? Because, Iron Man went toe-to-toe with Thanos, got his ass beat. Hulk went toe-to-toe with Thanos, got his ass beat. Thor went toe-to-toe with Thanos and got his ass beat. Like, why would Ant-Man be the guy? So I'm like, all right, we'll see what happens. I'm very grateful that Kang just basically fucked him up. I mean, it was unless if he didn't get blindsided by Hope, there's no way that there's even a sweat on Kang.
Yeah.
They can't beat Kang more than Ant-Man did, which is pretty funny.
Also brings me back to my point of this was not the most powerful Kang, right?
Right.
And I think that was on purpose.
Well, it's a good thing you say that because up until now, as someone who doesn't know much about Kang in the comics, the way the trailers are, this guy and the way they talk about him, this guy was going to be unbelievably strong.
Well, it gets convoluted, right? Because
when I was watching the movie, I thought to myself, like, I mean, he's losing. Like,
he's just a normal villain.
Like I don't understand. Like, how was this guy?
You got to remember, this was the Kang that got beat by all the other Kangs.
Right. And exile.
So they're all more powerful than he is. So like it gets convoluted when you start talking about Kang because there's so many different variants and so many different like versions of him that like. Yes.
You know where you will see Kang pop up, maybe? Sorry to cut you off. It just popped in my head. Fantastic Four.
Fast X?
No, Fantastic Four, you're definitely going to see him.
You have to. I feel like you have to. I mean,
they have a huge connection, especially with Richard Reed.
Basically a Fantastic Four movie, just with Ant-Man and his family replacing the Richards.
I mean, basically. Yeah. So like where this movie really shines is in the middle, right? Because the ending kind of like was like to me,
yes
and then there's some problems with the ending for me, and there were some problems with the beginning for me. But like once they get into the quantum realm, and that whole period before like the final battle was really, really good in my opinion.
So I got problems there, man. I got visually, I agree, it was fantastic. Everyone you met, I had no problems with. But I hate to sound like I'm just complaining about everything, but like
Janet, that's what we're here for.
Janet Van Dyne, Michelle Pfeiffer's character, Van Dien, like I thought her whole story was just ridiculous. So here's my problem. And at the end of Ant-Man 2, she's willingly sending Scott into the quantum realm.
This is the plot hole I was talking about.
Right. So she's basically like, yeah, let's go harness some energy. Go ahead. And then the argument online is that he went into a time vortex, not the quantum realm, but that's not true. They went into the quantum realm and she went to the quantum realm, not to get sucked into a time vortex. So we'll just eliminate that counter argument right away. She willingly sent him into the quantum realm to harness energy. And I get she wasn't sending him deep into the quantum realm and all that jazz, but still, she was doing it.
Pass through the void.
She was involved. Right.
He didn't pass through the void.
Here, she hears that they're sending a beacon down to the quantum realm. Immediately, she's like, turn it off. What are you doing? You can't touch the quantum realm. Yeah. How dare you? I just want to forget it even exists. And I'm like, but wait a minute. You were just experimenting with it with your husband.
Right.
Just before Infinity War. So, like, that really bothered me. What is that?
To save
Ghost. Yeah. Someone that she really has no connection with anyway. So that really bothered me. And then the other thing that bothered me, and this is something a lot of movies do, and it's just a silly kind of writing shortcut that just pisses me off. When a character knows some major information that could save everyone's life and just won't tell them. Because in their own mind, they want to just forget it, that they know it, or they have a bad
protecting
history
you
or whatever. I hate that so much. Such a stupid thing to do. And fine, she doesn't want to talk about it when she's on Earth with her family. Okay, now you're in the quantum realm and you got to figure out a way out, and you don't know how to get out. Like maybe now you should take 3 minutes and just go, look, there's a guy down here who's gonna fuck all our shit up. You need to listen to what I'm saying. I have a history here.
That was annoying.
I hate that. And the whole scene. I think the first time it was ever done in cinema was funny. The scene where they're being approached by menacing looking people. And she's like, I got this under control. They have a quick fight and then they hug it out because they're really just friends and they were just fucking around with each other. Mm-hmm. I mean, when Han Solo and Lando Calrissian did it, I guess it was kind of funny, but it's not a smart scene. It's a dumb thing to write. Why wouldn't she say, no, I know these people, don't worry about it. Like that kind of stuff really irritated me with her character.
Yeah,
and the fact that they focused on
storyline is the biggest problem, and what sucks is Michelle Pfeiffer's great.
She kills it in the movie.
I was gonna say that this movie for her was like 2 different movies. Like,
yes,
she was fantastic in what she was doing and like navigating, the quantum realm and like really being the guide. But then at the same time, she was just a complete disaster as far as like relaying information, really explaining why it's terrifying down here because she's the only one that lived it. her weird relationship with Bill Murray. Like
Which
it
was just a pointless.
Well, God, I mean,
so
I kind of like that part. It was
Listen,
no,
Bill Murray's Bill
so
Murray, right?
pointless,
But it was
look,
pointless.
anytime you add Bill Murray into something, it immediately brings the property up.
He
in
was
my
great.
opinion.
Like he was funny as shit. I'll admit that 100%. He made me laugh and whatever, but it was a pointless venture. Why couldn't we were just talking about how MODOK really didn't MODOK through the movie. Right there, instead of adding Bill Murray's character and that whole stop off at the cantina, because that's basically what it was, have him track him down. Have MODOK track him down. I mean, maybe have him kill the freedom fighters, or I don't know, just have him be a part of that versus introducing Bill Murray, who, from what I can tell, is not going to be a part of any other MC movie going forward. It was just no reason for him to be there.
I mean, he'll be in the quantum realm for the rest of whatever.
Right.
If he
a
lives.
scene that really irritated me.
It was Canto Bite all over again. Sorry, go ahead.
And I mentioned this to Chris privately after the movie because I don't think you saw it yet. So when Ant-Man and Cassie, when they get captured by the rebels,
my God. I'm glad you
Bro,
said it because it pissed me off in the theater too.
It pissed me off because they capture them and bring them back to their rebel camp, right? And then all of a sudden, Kang's hunters come looking for him, and the leader's like, "You led them right to us," blah, like giving them all this shit, and they're like, like half the movie was them apologizing for them, giving up their base, and it's like, no, you brought them to your base when you shouldn't.
No one told you to bring them there.
like it made no sense to me. It irritated me, man. I
mean,
was like, why are you complaining? You literally brought them here.
Yeah, the freedom fighter thing aspect of this whole movie was kind of like it seemed forced upon us for obvious social justice reasons because they were not 100%. Hiding that at all. And it really didn't need to be that way at all. You know what I mean?
Really what it was just a setup so they could have some giant battle at the end of the movie. That's
but you could have done that without them being like dicks about it. You know what I mean?
And honestly, at the end of the movie, Ant-Man could have just been turned into the giant version of Ant-Man.
It's the ooze. Drink the ooze.
Yeah. No, but really at the end, Ant-Man could have just become Giant Man, fucked up Kang's machine, and then they could have had like a 4 or 5 on 1 fight. It would have been a much more badass kind of scene. But the freedom fighters.
Yeah, I mean, but you wanted to show Kang's army, right? And
but you have the ants. So this is what bothered me is that you didn't need the freedom fighters because Hank already had the ants. So it could have been like how we gonna stop them? I don't know. And Hank could have been like, oh guys, like
I still think you needed the freedom fighters. Like you needed somebody to like be fighting against Kang also.
No, you know why they were introduced? I'm gonna tell you right now. The reason they were introduced is because when Quantum Kang Dynasty or Secret Wars comes out and we get our inevitable portal scene where all the heroes come together to fight whatever the main bad guy is.
Freedom fighters.
One of the portals is going to be the freedom fighters from the quantum realm.
Right. Yeah, I mean, what's the problem with that?
I guess it's no problem. We see the writing on the wall.
Like they're world building here, guys. Like let them world build a little bit.
Drink the ooze. Yeah,
drink the ooze.
That was you guys play High on Life?
Yeah, I didn't finish it. I played a decent chunk at the beginning.
I'm about halfway through.
That drink the juice thing was direct from High on Life. That was just straight out of that.
But now, is that a good 100%. Or a bad thing? Because clearly, I know the writers of Rick and Morty, or one of the writers, helped write this show, the movie, and clearly he just took moments from Rick and Morty, from High on Life, from that whole style, and brought
from every movie. This was like a live action Rick and Morty without the best 100%. Characters of Rick and Morty, which 100%. Are Rick and Morty.
I was waiting for Rick to show up at some point.
Yeah, like I was waiting for a version of
Dan Harmon. It's not a likable person right now. So
yeah, I guess not.
Do that.
I think it's the other guy, right? I don't think it's Dan Harmon. I think it's the other guy.
Oh no, Dan Harmon. Yeah, it was
Chris.
No. No, Dan Harmon's the one who was in trouble.
I don't know. It was one of them.
I don't think so. Anyway, like as far as an Ant-Man movie goes, this had more stakes than all the other Ant-Man movies.
Yeah.
The best villain out of all the Ant-Man movies.
Well, so speaking of the best villain, though, because I have a picture of Kang up too. The other thing that pissed me off. And again, this is something a lot of movies do, and I guess it's meant to be the hubris of the villain and all that stuff is going to come back to haunt them. But like Kang gets the engine, right? Ant-Man shrinks it down, which can we just talk about how that was nonsense? Like I like the improbability part of it. Like that was an interesting kind of aspect to add to it. And, that all the Ant-Men working together because their singular goal was to get back to Cassie. All that was cool, but he shoots a shrink disc at the engine and it just disintegrates. So then the next step is just to shoot more of them, and then it worked. And I was like, okay, that kind of was pointless. That bothered me.
No, but it made sense in the fact of that Janet used like 6 discs to enlarge it.
Yeah, but they were shooting one at a time, and it's not like the first disc sort of got through and burned away. It didn't get through at all. So why would more discs get through? That just doesn't make sense to me. But that's, whatever. I'm nitpicking, fine. But then Kang gets the engine and has them, could kill them easily, and goes, "You survived here. Let's see how they do." And I was like, oh, that's just the dumbest thing that a bad guy does. And it happens a lot of times in movies, so it's not just an Ant-Man thing. But we have to stop with this. It's just a stupid thing to do, especially when you're supposed to be one of the smartest villains that they faced.
Yeah, but here's the thing about Kang, right? He's so above everybody else that he feels unbeatable, right? So for him, he doesn't have to like get his hands dirty at that moment. He's just like, fuck them. Like, they don't even matter. Like, they don't even matter.
You say he doesn't have to get his hands dirty,
but then he has to. Then he has to.
No,
right?
But you say that he doesn't have to get his hands dirty, right? Because he's above them. Fine,
in that
I agree.
moment. In that moment.
But I agree with you 100%. In that moment, he doesn't have to do it. If only he had a machine that was like designed only for killing. To kill the heroes of the movie.
Cassie told that guy not to be a dick anymore.
This is before that, though. This is before
he stopped being a dick.
No, but this is before that, though. You see what I'm saying? Though it's like he literally has a machine that everyone's talking about how deadly this thing is. You have your heroes that are stranded now, no help, no anything. Send him. You didn't have to.
Yeah.
I'm nitpicking. I know I am, but like,
well, it's more along the lines of
consistency.
It's not even that they're so beneath him that he doesn't have to get his hands dirty. It's so beneath him that like they don't
have to worry about him.
Whatever they do, it doesn't matter because he has the machine. So it doesn't matter what they do. He can kill them. He can let them live. It doesn't matter. Like, it's just he's got the machine, and that's all that matters, right? Once he has the machine, he knows he can conquer all of the universes, right? And
I have no way of really disagreeing with you. I didn't like it. I didn't like those moments.
It's a preference thing. I get it. Like, this movie did a lot of very standard things that every other movie does that aren't the best ways to tell a story.
Yeah, 100%.
But for me, like, the world building of the Quantum Realm was amazing to me. I really like Cassie. The dynamic of her like getting into her powers and stuff was really well done.
A new Ant-Man, for the future for sure.
Yeah,
although I feel like the Wasp hasn't really been given enough.
What I'm excited for,
sidelined here.
What I'm excited for is I want to see. Now I can't wait to see Cassie and Kate Bishop together.
Yeah, I feel like that's gonna be a good dynamic.
Like, I'm excited for that now. Like, this made me excited for Young Avengers because
I can't wait for them to announce Ant-Man 4 and they're going to call it the Wasps. And it's just going to be Janet. It's just going to be Janet, Cassie, and Hope.
Right.
Now Cassie's name is Stature.
Listen, Kamala Khan's name is not Captain Marvel.
She also has a name Stinger, so they might go with Stinger. But
there you go.
You ruined my joke.
I know.
But then he brought it back to your joke.
Yeah, I brought it back to your joke, though.
That's true. That's true.
My thing is, like, that makes me excited for the future of the MCU. Like, being able to see Kamala Khan, Kate Bishop, Cassie Lang, and like,
I'll be
the
honest.
Rest of the
people complain about Phase 4. Clearly, Phase 4 was just about building up characters that are going to be big deals down the road. We all have our issues, but like, I have full faith that at some point, all the complaints we do now and all the problems we have, we're just going to be like, no, the MCU is just fantastic and fuck everybody.
Hopefully.
Kang Dynasty is just going to make me get giddy in my seat again.
On MVP this weekend, I went down like a thought process that I've been having, and I want to pose it to you guys.
Go for it.
Is the current MCU... And I'm not saying it's struggling number wise, because obviously it's going to succeed in the box office. But maybe creativity and execution. Is the MCU missing the Russo brothers' main direction, or are they missing their guidance? Because you had 3 phases. You had 3 phases leading up to the Russo brothers' conclusion. So everything kind of, even though they had their own stories and their own things, they still had to be on point leading to that same direction. Is that element missing in this saga? Because it's kind of just seems like a free-for-all at this point.
Right. Well,
No.
Zuplex, I'll let you answer first.
No, because I'll tell you exactly why. The Russo brothers didn't come in until late phase 2. Right. We are in the first phase of the saga.
Early phase 2.
It was Winter Soldier.
Winter
Soldier, and then they weren't really, but I would argue they weren't really relevant until Civil War.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, that's true also.
No, Winter Soldier was their movie, but Civil War is when.
Yeah, but if
the
Winter
very
Soldier, I mean, I
specific,
understand what
through
Fred's saying, because if Winter Soldier isn't as good as it does, they don't give the Russos Civil War, right?
Well, yeah, but your question, Fred, is like they had almost like an overall story for the last, say, 4 movies of the MCU Infinity Saga.
Right, but
like,
the other
that doesn't
movies
matter.
were impacted because
You have to-
of the direction.
Right, but I'm saying that doesn't matter until they did Civil War. At that point, everything else needed to link up with the story of Civil War set up.
Directly link
to
up,
get to
yeah.
Infinity. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think I agree.
with
I don't
that.
think it matters until then.
And my thing is that you have to look at this like we're in phase 1 all over again, right?
Well,
phase
I
1
think
was
phase 4 was phase 1, right? Now we're in phase
4
2.
is phase 1.
well, I mean, yeah, but phase 4 was also like we talked about this at one point where like the phase 4 felt more of like a reboot thing that they're trying to do.
That was phase 1. They introduced those characters and all. So
now
phase
we're
2. They're gonna hone it in a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna hone it in.
5, I mean, and then phase 6, I think, is gonna be more what you're describing here, where we'll get a very specific that's now we're sprinting to Kang Dynasty.
I agree with that.
Keep in mind, Fred, that
I'm still looking at all this like phase 1, which was kind of all over the place.
Well, yeah, I mean, but keep in mind that the guy who directed Shang-Chi is the one who's directing Kang Dynasty. So they have somebody in mind to kind of steer the ship to make sure it lines up. I just don't think, to my point before, I don't think his input's going to be as crucial until we're into phase 6, until we're in those last, say, 5 movies, and we're running now to Kang Dynasty. You know what I mean? But that's that's a guess. I really have no idea.
Yeah,
I do think, to your point, that creativity wise and execution wise and all that stuff, not that it's not there, but it definitely is. We're so used to these high bar setting levels of visuals and storytelling and action scenes, and stuff like that I don't think it's harder to impress us, is basically what I'm trying to say. So
I think personally, because they're
out of your way for
so many new characters and so many new properties and everything like that, they've been trying to find new creators and directors for all these things, and I think they missed the bar with a bunch of them. I think they found some great people for others, and I think that's where the disconnect is feeling, and that's what they did in phase 1, right? Like they were trying different people, like Kenneth Branagh directing Thor, like whoever, I don't remember who directed
almost
the first
like trying to find
America.
the right person that they can go forward with. You're saying
like Favreau directed Iron Man 1 and 2, but then like he was off for 3, and they had to bring in Shane Black, so it was kind of like they're still looking for who the voice of the MCU going forward is going to be. Where I think this movie missed the mark with connecting, which they could have easily done, is one of those after credit scenes, instead of showing us the fucking Loki thing, what boggles my mind about the end of this movie is that there is no world after Scott Lang went through what he went through in Endgame where he doesn't pick up that phone and calls anybody.
Right. Tell somebody.
Any single person in the Avengers. He could have called fucking Rocket Raccoon for all I cared. And been like, hey, we might have a problem. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Like, just so you know, I think I killed somebody who can travel the multiverse. Like, he knows Doctor Strange. Call him and be like, yo,
well, Doctor Strange, I'll give him credit with Doctor Strange. He's all fighting incursions. He's off world. Right.
Well, so they should have put a line in there saying he tried.
He can't call Bruce
Wong.
Oh,
yeah, you can't call Bruce, who basically knows everybody.
Yeah. Call Wong.
Can't call Wong. Like he can't call any of these guys and be like, "Hey, we may have a big fucking problem on our hands
Hawkeye.
here."
Call
Hawkeye. You know, like
Captain America, the new Captain America. You can call
real
him.
shits, lads. I agree. 1989 Toyota.
Thank you, bro.
What does it say?
Hell
Toyota.
yeah. Hell yeah. Appreciate you.
Highest?
That's a highest. Is that how you say it? I'm bad with names. I apologize, but I agree.
Like that was my biggest problem at the end of this movie. Like he's walking up the street, they're doing the redo of like the beginning of the movie. He's like, "Yeah,"
and he acknowledges.
I wonder if that guy's gonna come back and destroy everything.
Right? Yeah. He literally acknowledges that maybe he didn't save the day.
Like that. Like I wanted to fucking throw something at the screen at that point. Like I was so mad at that. Like pick up the phone, fucking call somebody, dude. Like you were an Avenger. You went to
didn't do that.
You saved the world. You saved the universe, right? You were the guy that was trapped in the quantum zone for 5 years, the quantum realm for 5 years.
You should have a little more respect where you can actually call somebody and
and like you came back. You came back and came up with the time heist idea in a way, you know. At some point, like you know that what you just went through in the quantum realm with Kang is a big fucking deal. Thanos level deal. How are you not picking up that phone and being like, we have a problem, like somebody come help me?
Can I tell you what my problem is with the way it ended? Because my biggest problem with the movie overall is the way it ended. Besides the fact that he kills Kang, essentially, you know, quote unquote kills Kang, my biggest problem is that when him and Hope finally beat Kang and the portal closes and all that stuff and they're hugging each other, I thought to myself, yo, that's a crazy way to end it. Like, you know, maybe nobody died, but now they're in the quantum realm. This is where they were stuck. Like, you know, that's awesome because now they also two reputable people, meaning specifically like to your point, Ant-Man already saved the universe. Like he's not around to kind of corroborate any stories about this guy who can travel the universe.
And then you could add Cassie going around. I need help to get them
trying
out.
to get some sort of help. And people are like, yeah, okay, like you know, you're the new Ant-Man. Like, relax, we don't take you seriously.
And he runs into Kate Bishop.
So that was awesome. Like that was a really good way to end it. And then all of a sudden, Cassie types a few keys on a keyboard, hits enter because that's basically how all people use a keyboard in the real world. And all of a sudden, the portal opens up, and I was like,
they go through this whole thing. They go through this whole thing to open up a portal, and then after that, it was like, oh, now we just hit Control Delete.
It turns out you just needed Windows 95, and then you just hit enter.
You guys keep going because I got a couple more thoughts, but I really have to pee. Sorry.
Go ahead, go for it.
All right.
No, but I was very, very, very. I'm gonna remove him from the thing because he doesn't need to be here. I was very annoyed with that. I thought that almost ruined.
It was annoying.
I wouldn't say ruined the movie, but that really, really knocked that movie down a few notches because to me. It took such an interesting way to end it, you know, and
it lessened the stakes. Like it just was like now they're stuck there. Now there's a real problem, and we have to go through this. And it was erased in a second. And it didn't make sense. That
was my thing too. It's one thing if you show her like it would have been fine if they showed her putting a few things together,
struggling,
and a portal like sparks but doesn't open.
Yeah,
and it's almost like okay, so that's how they're gonna get them. But we don't know how long they're going to be in the quantum realm for. But instead, it was right at that moment, okay, let's go home. And I'm like,
what bothered me though, like, her hitting a keyboard opens a portal. That bothers me because to open the portal to begin with, they needed Kang's engine.
Right, you needed Kang's engine.
They used Kang's engine to open the portal. And then they shoot Kang into the engine and shrink it infinitely. And all of a sudden, another portal opens and everything's okay in the world. And it was like, this doesn't make sense.
Plus, like, none of that made any sense. What didn't make sense too is that when they first opened that portal from the Earth side, it wasn't like they were sent into the middle of the quantum realm, nowhere near Kang's headquarters. Now she hits a few buttons. There's nothing on Ant-Man's side that's kind of like connecting with whatever she's doing, and it opens up right there in the middle of the room. I guess the argument is that Michelle Pfeiffer's character.
Yeah, I was gonna say Janet could probably know where the coordinates are, or however the hell.
I don't know, man.
Works.
It just
they did mention maps. Like if we can get a map of the quantum realm, we can pinpoint everything exactly. But
yeah,
I don't remember them actually getting a map.
What would have saved it? honestly,
they didn't yet.
saved
That
it
was the
all.
problem. They sent out the beacon and got sucked into the quantum realm.
What would have
Immediately.
saved
Never
that
happened.
ending?
No, I'm saying at the end of the movie, like
They didn't
they
mention
went
it.
through the
Yeah.
movie, they
Yeah.
didn't get a map, and then she was still able to pinpoint their location for the
No,
portal.
but honestly, what would have saved that ending would have been played exactly like it is, right? She hits a few buttons, she hits enter. We cut to Ant-Man and Wasp. Portal opens up, and they go, "Okay, let's go home." They walk through. They come to Earth years in the future, where it's like they feel like they were just there for a few minutes, but
Nah,
actually,
I would have hated that though.
but
I
why?
would've
That
been
would have
really
made more
upset with that.
sense.
I
It
don't
would
know.
have been better.
I can't
It
deal with
would've
any
been
more
better
time
if-
jumps in this
Well,
freaking
But
franchise.
what if they walked out of the portal and they were on a different Earth?
I'm
how
telling you,
about this?
you guys are making it way more complicated than it needs
No,
to
no,
be.
no.
All he has to do is make a phone call at the end.
Well, I'll do one
I
better
agree
though.
with you.
What
with
if
that. I'm
what
just
if they
saying
walk
as
through
far
the
as
portal,
portals.
and when they come through the portal, they're at the beginning of the movie when when Cassie is first showing them that there's a portal there, and they right away are just like, whoa, we're not doing this, and they stop it, and now all of a sudden there's two Ant-Men, and going forward
Doesn't
now
that-
with the figure
doesn't
out.
that create a
and then
time
we
loop
have,
where
Of course,
the
it
thing
does,
that-
but why not?
that
Why
creates
not?
a paradox?
We have a council of Ricks. Doesn't that create a time loop?
Well, no, because then they never go down
creates
and
an
defeat Gang.
incursion, which we know incursions
That's
are
my
already
point, though.
happening because of
Cause an
Doctor
incursion. That's my point.
I don't know.
They could-
that
listen,
all sounds
anything they
way
did
more
would've been
complicated
That
than it needs
that
to be.
incursion could have furthered the story that Doctor Strange has to do.
I mean,
with.
we're getting Secret Wars, right? So the incursion could have been the beginning of getting us to Secret Wars. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah, but we're getting Kang Dynasty first. Kang Dynasty is
Yeah,
going to
but-
lead us to Secret
yeah,
Wars.
but we don't know how long an incursion takes. Maybe an incursion takes fucking decades. And
Apparently,
they
years,
should've
according
did?
to Doctor Strange, because he's been gone off world forever at this point.
that's what I'm saying. So, like,
You know, what
but
they
my
should've
point
did?
is they could have done it better. I hated that they removed.
Listen, there was definitely a
the
bunch of
stakes.
different ways they could have ended this
Yeah.
movie. I just think,
No,
especially
and
for this movie, not making
the
it
end
as
credit
complicated was a
scene-
smarter idea.
The end credit scene should have been him picking up a phone or driving to.
I'll be honest
whatever.
with you, it didn't even have to be an end credit scene. It could have just been him
Right.
at the end, like going on that walk, having that same inner monologue, and then being like,
Pulling out a
shit,
cell phone.
I should really call somebody. You don't even have to see the
Yeah.
conversation. You
True,
can just see him
true.
scrolling through his phone and lands on like Bruce or like whatever,
100%.
green guy, whatever.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? Whatever he would have him in his phone as, and just being like, hello, and then
Yeah.
just end it there.
Yeah.
You know, you could have
Or
just done
Rhodey.
that.
You're right.
Rhodey
They could've
Anybody,
called anybody. It would've been
literally
fine.
anybody.
You have Captain America just sitting there, like waiting for his next
Sam
movie.
Wilson is just like, he's like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
I'm still around.
Yeah,
Cap used to be
Yeah.
important. What about me?
I don't think he would have called. Oh, actually, he could have called Sam. You don't
Right.
you just-
exactly.
Actually, you don't even see the phone. You don't even see who he's calling. He just answers. He goes, "Hello." He goes, "What's up, Tic Tac?" That's
Yeah.
all you would need.
Cut.
And then you're like,
Cut to
"Oh
the credits.
shit!"
Yeah.
Like it's leading
Yeah.
into Captain America: New World Order. Let's go.
Yeah.
I just don't
Um,
see after what happened with Endgame that there's a reality where Scott doesn't make a phone call to somebody.
Well, that's the
Agreed.
problem that they've kind of been running into more and more as the heroes have grown, right? Is that they all know each other. So how are
Yeah.
you just not constantly calling each other? Yo, I got Kingpin's in my neighborhood. I'm Daredevil. Yo, it's Daredevil. Kingpin's in my neighborhood. Spider-Man, come on.
Well, that's been like a comic thing forever.
yeah, yeah.
They deal with their
Yeah.
own shit, but when with something like this, it would and you're connecting. It should have should have had a phone call or something. What they should have done, and this is kind of like a little out there, but it would have been funny to me. Is time is non-existent in the quantum realm, right? So
Mhm.
you don't know what time you're in, blah blah blah.
Well,
right?
no, they're very like careful to tell us they don't know how time works.
Yeah,
They told
yeah.
us like
Well,
time's funny
so-
here.
yeah. Michelle
We've been
Pfeiffer
gone for
grew
days,
30
we've been gone for
years.
years. We don't know.
Yeah,
Which is their cop out way of being like whatever.
What would have been funny to me is if you saw the variance of Scott Lang when Hulk was trying to shoot him in time, and you saw
Yeah.
baby Scott come out of like a
Yeah,
portal somewhere, like, and you saw like old man Scott, and like,
yeah. That would have been
they
funny.
did that. I thought that would have been funny, but
That absolutely would have been funny.
randomly throwing it out there.
But
Well,
like
anyway.
for the most part, I thought the movie was good though. Like I really did. I really enjoyed it.
I
was
fun.
better.
enjoyed the movie
Yeah.
100%. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's my favorite Ant-Man because for me personally, I love heist movies, and that first Ant-Man just hit different. It was just a different animal to what we were used to in the MCU, and I really appreciated that. Was the villain in this one better? absolutely, but it's still, I don't know. It felt more grounded, even though it was silly Ant-Man stuff. It felt more grounded, where this one it has the silly element to it, and I appreciated the original better.
I think we'll get I feel like right now my take on this, my rating is a 6.5 out of 10. But depending on what we
I
get
moved to
going
like
forward,
a 6-8.
Yeah. But
I'm
like
still
what
at
we
7.5. I really
I
like
feel
this
like
movie. I'm not gonna lie.
I feel like what we get going forward and how it connects to the story threads that were introduced here is gonna almost determine how much I like this in the future. You know what I mean? I'll definitely watch
Yeah.
it again, which is saying something because I haven't watched Thor 4 or Doctor Strange 2 since they've been on Disney Plus. This
I
one
watched
comes out on
Wakanda,
Disney
though.
Plus. Wakanda Forever, 100%. Like this one comes out on Disney Plus, and I'll watch this right away. But those
Yeah,
two,
me
you know
too.
what I mean? So like I clearly enjoyed it enough. But
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna
yeah.
watch it again.
I'm looking forward to Kang versus
I'm
Killmonger.
hoping the further along we go in MCU, the more important this movie feels.
Yes,
I mean,
that's exactly what I'm trying to say.
But see, that's what this movie gave me, though. At the end of it, was that I did feel that this had a lot more setup in it than a lot of the movies that we've gotten so far, as the future of the MCU is concerned.
A little bit, yeah.
It gave us the setup for Kang. It gave us what we're going to be seeing with Kang. You know, it gave us a version of Kang that was completely badass and shows how powerful he can really be. And then with the end credits scenes, I'm glad that we got 2. So it gave us an idea of where Loki 2 is going. It gave us Cassie. You know, it gave us the excitement.
Do we know?
Later this year.
Is it later this year?
Or is it beginning
this year?
Is this year?
I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure it's 2023.
Yeah, it's got to be soon. They've been filming it for a while. So I think moving forward, I think this was a good movie as far as setup is concerned. I just feel like the whole movie was just set up for the future of the MCU.
Yeah, middle of 2023.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a question. It's a 2-part question. One is, are we going to get another Moon Knight season before the saga is wrapped up? And if the answer is yes, are we going to get Tut Kang in that Moon Knight show?
No, I think you get Tut Kang in Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four, you think?
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's where his Ramen Tut. I gotta remember this off the top of my head. Ramen Tut, I believe, is Reed Richards. Is not Reed Richards. Richard Reed.
Yeah, he's a variant of Richard.
Yeah, he's a variant. Nathaniel Richards.
No, Reed Richards.
Oh,
Nathaniel Richards.
Okay. No, Nathaniel Richards. Who is the grandson of Reed Richards that goes back in the past? I want to say something along those lines. I gotta remember because the Kang stuff gets really fucking all over the place. So Ramen Tut has a big tie to Fantastic Four, though. So if we saw him anywhere, it would be Fantastic Four. I don't think it'll be Moon Knight.
Okay.
I think we get another season of Moon Knight, but I think it almost feels like if we get that, it might be right before Kang Dynasty and stuff. But it'll. Like,
I think it'll be
for a while.
I think it'll be before Blade.
Maybe
because you tie Moon Knight into Blade better than you tie him into Kang. Right now.
Yeah, that's true. I forget. I keep forgetting there's a Blade movie.
I was just trying to make the Egyptian connection. So
it's really not like that version of Kang doesn't really have any connection to Moon Knight at all. I know it seems like he would because of the Egyptian side of things, but it's more connected to Fantastic Four and the Avengers than anything else. Scarlet Centurion and Immortus. It's a little bit different. I don't know where they could pop them up in. The other thing that we're gonna have to find out is with Guardians coming out soon, we're gonna get, I think, a similar movie to this in the way of them setting up the galactic side of everything. I don't know if we're gonna get a lot of Kang in the galactic movies.
Right, he doesn't really belong there. But
he could belong anywhere technically because he's Kang, but he doesn't really belong there. So it's like,
I feel like you could use Fantastic Four. Not really. I really don't know.
The problem, we gotta wait and see what happens.
We see him more and more and more, and they continue to build up this threat. But I agree with you. I don't really see easy spots for him to hop in.
Yeah, right now, like
You know?
Loki season 2 will probably give us more information about all of this than anything will.
Yeah.
And then we'll get Guardians, which will give us the galactic side of things, but we have to see which way they're going in that aspect of things. And they pushed the Marvels back, right? They pushed it back to November.
They pushed it back to November. Yep. And replaced it with a Disney movie.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, I thought they might do that anyway because their slate has always been like February, March. You know, when they do 3, it's usually February, March, then July, then like November. When they do 4, it's like early February, May, July, November. So I figured they were going to be moving something back. I mean, the Marvels should give us an idea about the more galactic side. I think Kang could possibly show up in the Marvels. That might be a through line somewhere. But it's so difficult right now because we have so little information about everything. And now we have so many characters to really think about, like where they're going to be popping up next and everything. Like, what's the Disney Plus slate for this year? We have Loki season 2, and then what else?
Let's pull that up.
Because we know the only other movies we're getting are Guardians and Marvels, right?
Yeah, Guardians, Marvels, and then we have
everything coming to Disney Plus in 2023.
Loki,
kind of forever. There's What If season 2 is coming out this year. Secret Invasion is coming out this year.
Okay, Secret Invasion. Yeah.
Echo is technically supposed to come out summer of this year. So Echo is supposed to come out before Loki, but I think it doesn't seem like that's happening now because we've heard nothing about Echo. So Loki season 2 will be the summer show. The Marvel
Echo's going to set up Daredevil more anyway.
Ironheart is definitely not coming out this year. There is the X-Men 97 is the continuation of the X-Men cartoon.
Yeah, but that's also like another.
That's probably later this year.
So it's really not much. So
Agatha Covenant of Chaos is next year, and then it moves on from there. So
that might deal with Kang a little bit. Maybe Scarlet Centurion. That version of Kang, like it's possible. So there's no real clear through line on where this is going to be going yet, which I was hoping that we were going to get more of an idea of that.
Right.
Like
me too.
Well, I guess the clear through line we got is that we're not dealing with Kang the Conqueror necessarily. We're dealing with the Council of Kangs.
The Council of Kangs.
That's
which I thought they were going to kind of do anyway, because like Kang the Conqueror, as strong as he is and everything like that, like the Council of Kangs is really what you have to worry about.
Right.
So we'll see how it goes.
Anyway, I got nothing else about Ant-Man. You guys got, if there's anything last things you want to throw in there, let me know. 3.
I think that's,
we deep dove the shit out of this. So, thank you for everybody in the chat for jumping in. Thank you for anyone who watched. If you like this kind of stuff, like and subscribe. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, all, the whole 9. GGENetwork, Generational Gaming Entertainment Network. And keep an eye out for everything else that we're doing. We got a lot of stuff in the pipeline for 2023.
You guys on Twitch that were watching us every Tuesday, we're here for this podcast. So
every Tuesday at 8:30 for Theater Room. Every other week on the weekends for MVP. And then every week we're trying to give you the Oversell podcast, the greatest wrestling podcast on the internet. And
in the world, sir. In the world.
In the world, I apologize. Well, the internet's the world, right? I guess it's kind of the same thing.
I guess.
Yeah, so we'll see you guys next week with another Theater Room episode. We're approaching episode 80, kind of climbing up in those numbers there. And have a good one.
Later.